Hi, everybody. Good morning. Still a little bit early for me. I'm still a little bit blurry-eyed. I've had a coffee, so I might be a little bit jittery. My name's Ruth, as you just saw on the big screen. I'm here to talk to you about web APIs. I come from a background of UX design and front-end development. I currently work for Telefonica, better known in the UK as O2. I work for their labs department, so it's kind of our job to prototype very quickly, which is a very different way of working to what I'm used to. I come from an agency background, so I'm very used to lengthy projects that have very tight deadlines, which doesn't make any sense, but it's agencies. You can find me on Twitter as @Rumira, and you can pretty much find me all over the web under that. It was my birthday on Friday. I was the ripe young age of 33, which means it was 11 years since I left uni. And just to say that out loud, that seems like a crazy amount of time. It really hasn't felt like 11 years. But it does mean that it's been 11 years since this. Oh, we're not getting sound? Oh.
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
Yes, Winamp, the MP3 player of choice. You must all remember Winamp. I'm looking around the room and I'm thinking this is a good age to remember Winamp. You know, this was back in the days where Napster was illegal. And no, we did not illegally download MP3s. Oh, God, no. But that wasn't my favorite thing about Winamp, was how sort of great it was at playing MP3s. My favorite thing, and this might not work, sometimes it doesn't, was this. Now, I've actually got this on video. So if you give me a sec. The visuals. It had this brilliant sort of render engine, and all these visuals would play to the music and go in time and change, and it was brilliant. And it was really brilliant for me, because the other thing that I used to do at uni quite a lot was go into clubs and venues and project visuals to bands and DJs. My name's Ruth, and I was, and I kind of hope I still am, a VJ. So what we used to do is I had a couple of friends, and we had this huge projector. I mean, it was about this big, with these big lamps in, and we used to lug it around in my tiny old Golf to all these venues and set it up with these big PCs, and it was great fun. And we had this great piece of software where you take like a line in from whatever the band or DJ was playing, and you could change your visuals to the music. And so I thought recently, because I've been reminiscing, obviously, 11 years since uni, could I recreate this in a browser? Could I recreate this VJ software in a browser? We have CSS animations. We have a web audio API. I'm thinking this could be possible. So working in the way that I work now, which is to quickly prototype stuff, let's start with a basic hack. Let's start with the minimum requirements of what we need. So to do this, I would need a moving visual, and I would need an analyzed sound wave. So let's start with our moving visual. It doesn't look too exciting at the moment, but this is just a basic CSS animation. And I'm sure we've all seen CSS animations. You declare your keyframes, and then you attach that to the elements that you want to animate. So all this is doing is fading in and out opacity, and I hope you can sort of see that okay. I'll post the slides online afterwards, so if there's anything you missed, you can go back. There is a list of animatable properties at the bottom, if you are interested in all the things that you can animate. So that was easy. We have our moving visual. That was simple. We probably want to make it a little bit more flashy, so there's more flashing lights. The next thing we need is the web audio API. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually played around with the web audio API, had a look at it. It's kind of magic. There's a lot to it, and it's sort of built in a way that we as web developers may not be too used to. I mean, if you don't understand this kind of thing, it might be a lot to take on board. It's all based around this idea of nodes. So you have input nodes, and they can be a file. You can pull in the audio or the video element from HTML. You can HTTP request a file. You can pipe into the WebRTC stream. There's quite a few ways to get your input node. Then you have modification and analyzer nodes. So you can distort your sound, you can analyze it, you can do a million things in between, and then you pipe that all out to an output node, which is usually your speakers. If you want to go into it in a little bit more detail, Sid Lawrence is doing a talk on it at this time tomorrow, and he is going to go into it in a lot more detail. So I recommend that you see that. I will be around afterwards as well if you want to come and talk to me about it. I love the web audio API. It's quite a lot to go into just in this talk. It can do all the things, like I said. So we can control volume. We can create a gain node and pipe volume up and down. We can create filters, which is distorting effects. We can filter out frequencies. We can filter in frequencies. And we can even create sound. So the oscillator node is another input node, and that creates a basic sine wave, square wave, sawtooth wave, and you can start creating like drum machines on your laptop. It's brilliant. But for this hack, we don't really need all of that. What we need is to analyze it. So that's cool. We do have an analyzer node purely for that. And what that gives us is, when we instigate it, is frequency data and time data. Now, I'm mostly interested in the frequency data. So this is the frequency of the sound that is playing at any given time. And that's the thing that I want to pick up on, so I can manipulate my visuals from that. So with a little bit more magic, what we can do is we can loop through these lights which I've created and attach each one of them to a different frequency, and then show the light when that frequency plays. So let's see if we can just get that working. Yeah, there you go. There's our hack. That's our basic one. As you can see, a piano is not necessarily pure frequencies, so they're kind of bleeding in and out of lights. But this isn't necessarily the sort of visual you would want in a club. So let's make it a little bit more flashy, and let's get some more clubby kind of music involved. Now we feel like we're in a club, right? Now we feel like we're flashing some visuals around. Great. There is one more little thing, and that is, I'm sure if you played that demo in a club to any kind of DJ music, nobody would really notice if it was going in time to the music or not, really. But we do really want to pick up on what the band or the DJ is playing. Now, at the moment, there isn't any sort of direct line-in functionality for the Web Audio API. But we do have another API, the Get User Media API. And what we can do is we can pick up on the mic on my device and have that listen to the ambient sound in the room and trigger the visuals off of that. So if I allow this mic, and you guys make some noise, yeah, we should be able to trigger the visuals. And there it is. There we have it. There's our hack. This was already great fun, and I started sort of demoing this a year ago, and people got quite excited, and they were saying to me, what if you did this with video? And I was thinking, yeah, that's a really good idea. So this is a Get User Media slide, by the way, because I tend to do demos too quickly. There's loads of web APIs that we can think about to add to this demo. We've already touched on the web audio and Get User Media. I'm sure you've all heard of things like geolocation, WebRTC. There's fun things like the Gamepad API, Vibration API, one of my favorites, Ambient Light API, Proximity API, Screen Orientation Device. It goes on and on. Okay? So when we start to think about expanding my hack into a more usable piece of software, we can start thinking we actually have all this functionality, and there must be ways that we can put this in. So the first thing to do is to add video. So because I was reminiscing about my uni days, I went back and I found all the old clips which I used to use when I was VJing in clubs. And let's make sure I've got the right one. And I picked out two of my favorites, which I remember ripping off the DVDs, which I, funnily enough, found. And use the same code. So what this code is doing is basically picking up on the frequencies and mixing the two videos together. Only mix it gets really good. There is, for those of you who remember, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but for those of you who are a little bit confused, this is He-Man and Thundercats being mixed together. These are two of my favorite ever cartoons. Like, I would say from my childhood, but they are still two of my favorite cartoons. There is a point in this mix where the higher frequencies take over and you only see Thundercats, but that was the better cartoon anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's just so much fun just to see me pull out these two and just use exactly the same codes I've been using and just watching them mix together. It's absolutely my favourite demo. And I can play more of that at the end if you're as excited about it as I am. So they're great. We've got some video and it's mixing. But we think, well, we might want to control it a little bit more than we are. And we might have like two separate things. We might have the lights and we might have the video and we might want to switch between the two. So we start to think about ways that we can control these visuals. The first, sorry, I've completely forgotten about the vibration API. I'm going to backtrack. So I wanted to do something with the vibration API and music. Because I think, for those of you who don't know, the vibration API basically just pipes into your device vibration. So if you have a phone or an iPad or anything that sort of buzzes or moves, we can trigger that by the vibration API. And it's really, really simple. All you have to do is declare navigator.vibrate and then specify how long you want it to vibrate. And you can put in an array, so you can start, stop with millisecond values. You can just put in one value so that it just vibrate for that one value. The thing is with this, and this is something that I can't do on my laptop, which is a shame because it doesn't vibrate, is we can still be analyzing the sound and trigger the vibration API when the sound is, I don't know, high, like high volume, when the drums are playing, so you can do beat detection. I have a polyfill because obviously my laptop doesn't vibrate, but you can go online and see this, and I'll give you the URL in a minute, and it's great if you do it on a phone. Christian Hellman has written a polyfill which basically makes your browser vibrate every single time the vibration API is called. You can see for yourself. If you have an Android or Firefox OS device, and you have the latest Chrome or Firefox OS browser, this will work. I recommend the dancing.rumara.com/shake and track. And what it'll do is it'll play a track, and your phone or device should vibrate with the track. It might not work on iOS, and I don't think it does, because I think mobile Safari is a little bit behind the game with this one. Yeah, surprise, surprise. But for those who have this, it's a really fun little demo. I have it here. There we go. And as you can see, the desktop is vibrating when the vibration API is called. So that's cool. That's another little added feature that we can do for those people that sort of want to feel the music as well as listen to it. We've already gone through the video bit. I skipped way ahead of myself. But I want to go back to talking about controlling. So being able to choose which video that we want to play at any given time. So it's not necessarily mixing together. We can actually just trigger Thundercats or He-Man. So one of the ways you can do this is with speech. So the web speech API, a less than an API, comes in two parts. There's speech synthesis and speech recognition. Synthesis is when your device talks to you. So my phone, laptop, anything can talk back at me. So you can use it for sort of reading content on websites. I'm sure there are loads of uses for it if you think about it. I was more drawn to the speech recognition and being able to change my video by asking my laptop to show it. So as long as I'm connected to the internet, this will work, because Chrome does a really sort of interesting thing with when you speak, it tries to recognize what the word is you're speaking, pipes it off to a server, gets a result back, et cetera. So it's not perfect, and it doesn't work offline. So this might not work. I do have some code here. That's just instigating the API and running through it and getting the results back. So with any luck, if I allow my mic, we could start. If I say Thundercats, it should show Thundercats. And if I say He-Man, okay, it should show He-Man, but you get the idea. So I could control it with my voice. That would be a great way of controlling it. Apart from, in a club, you probably won't be heard, because the ambient noise would be too loud. So what else could we use for controlling? Gamepads. Gamepad API. It's awesome. It's the most fun. I've always wanted to try it. There is on HTML5 Rocks, there's a great article, and it allows you to sort of test your gamepad when you plug it in. There's a really nice bit of code that's been written for it, which takes all the gumph out of stuff that you would have to write if you didn't just steal it, which is what I did. There's a whole thing about sort of polling. So if I plug in more than one gamepad, we want to make sure that the original gamepad stays as the original gamepad and the new one's picked up, and make sure that everything's still attached to the right place. And basically, this piece of code just sort of deals with all of that for you. And it allows you to access the buttons and the axes just like this. So you just do gamepad.button, one gamepad.button.axis. And you're basically just accessing all the buttons and all the axes. Now, I do have a demo of this. And I know full well from having done this a million times before, it never works on stage. So I have a sort of backwards video to show you, which I'm hoping will give you, I'm wondering if it will work on the slides, will give you a nice, let's see, because it's obviously backwards. Okay, no, let's do it through VLC, because we know that's going to work. Okay, so you have to skew your head.
Thundercats, He-Man. Thundercats, He-Man.
Ooh. So that's really cool. We've really got a great controller here, and it's great fun. You can imagine yourself sort of sitting in a club and just playing on your gamepad to control your visuals. I think that's a great thing to do. But like I said, it's a little bit flaky. Like, I can't get it to work today. I tried it before we did the talk, and it just wasn't working. And I was thinking, okay, maybe there are some better ways to control the visuals that are happening in a club. We've obviously got our keyboard, which isn't very exciting and doesn't sort of make use of any of these lovely new web APIs, but it's probably one of the best and most solid things for sort of flicking between videos, flicking between lights, all that kind of thing. But it doesn't really give us too much control. Like, we had the axes there that when you moved it around, the video sort of moved around the screen. There's no great way of doing that with a keyboard. So the other thing is the device orientation API. Not to be confused with the screen orientation API. So the screen orientation API talks to you about whether your screen is in portrait or landscape mode. The device orientation is all about where you're pointing, whether you're tilting, backwards or forwards. It works a lot better on sort of handheld devices. And you can move around, and it'll give you things like speed, like I said, orientation and tilt. This is the device orientation event that you would pick up on. And you can create alpha. Alpha is your direction, where you're standing. Beta is your vertical tilt, so that would be me tilting it like this. And gamma is your side-to-side tilt. Now, unfortunately, my lovely little Air does not have an accelerometer. So it is another demo I can't show you, but this is something that you can try out for yourselves. And I think this does work on iOS. Here we go, video tilt. So what you can do is you can go to that URL and you can tilt your device from side to side, and the video should start moving from side to side, which is a great way of controlling video. I mean, we could do this with handheld devices. And so that got me thinking, don't worry, I've sort of run out of demos now. I don't have any more. If you had devices plus WebSockets, you could then start to think about public participation and audience participation. So you'd be in a club, and you could have everybody sort of logging on with their phones if you're doing it through the web and you're doing it through your browser, which is something that we couldn't do with software before. And you could have the audience control the video, and they could choose what visuals they see, which I think is just a great sort of only the web can do that. We talk so much about what can the web give us. That's exactly it right there, that connectivity. So let's review what we've just been over in the right order this time. We started off with one visual. We started off with one piece of sound which we analysed. We manipulated that, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted to do. Then we started to add feedback with the vibration. And then we started to think about controlling, all with newfangled, shiny web APIs. So was this the original intention? With the audio API, is the original intention for that visuals? Well, I think the analyzer node was, but it's nice to know that we can sort of expand on it and that functionality is there for us. The get user media, was that like originally supposed to be an audio line-in for the audio API? I don't think that was its original intention, but it's great that we can do that, and it's great that we have that functionality. The same goes with the vibration API. I mean, really, it's there for sort of device user feedback. So the fact that we can do beat detection, I think that's a great way of using it. Speech API for video mixing. I'm pretty sure people weren't thinking about that when they were thinking about a web speech API. And the same with the gamepad API, actually controlling stuff that we have in our browser that's not actually a game. There's so many other uses for all these wonderful things that we have. And the device orientation API, which is a little bit to get your head around when you first start looking at it, but if you can then use that as a remote controller, all the better. So my message really is go forth and play, because there's a myriad of different APIs out there, and I've only touched on a few, and they're really good just to have a look at and start considering in the things that you're building. I know there's this thing about time. It's like, when do I have the time to do this? Everything you've seen I did in my spare time, but it has been done over like a year. I started this a year ago, and it's only every now and again do I sort of add on it and pick up on new APIs and get excited about them and want to sort of pipe them into my demo. You can find the time. It doesn't have to be very much. It just needs to be a little bit every now and again when you just want to have a play. Support. Browser support is not great. I'm running all of these demos through Chrome because it's about the most solid thing that I can find, which will support all of them. Firefox is pretty good as well, but we've all heard of Can I Use, I'm sure. It's a great place to go if you want to think about support. A lot of these probably aren't in stages where you can use them in production builds, which is a bit of a shame. But without using them, we won't know about them, we won't get the support for them, and so forth. And it's a catch-22. We just have to use them regardless of support, I think, sometimes. The horrible web versus native argument, which I don't really think is a thing. A lot of these APIs are obviously influenced by native development and all the functionality that iOS and Android developers have. But it's still the web. It's still an entity unto itself. And I think if we think too hard about web versus native, we start boxing ourselves in. And I think we have to sort of fundamentally remember what the web is about. And it's about connectivity and connecting people. Consider other uses. So when you are looking at these APIs, you might think, oh, I can't think of anything that I would use that for. But go and look at them anyway, because one day you will come across a use for it. And it can be the most out-of-the-box use. Thank you very much for your time. I'm at Remira, like I said. You can see all the demos at dancing.remira.com. And all the code is on GitHub as well. I will post these slides at the end of my talk. And I will take any questions that you have. Thank you.